Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Welcome back to the Box Seats here on latenightsportsradio.com. Box Seats with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan. Alex, how you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. Just getting ready for the dress rehearsal week of the NFL preseason, week 3. Getting ready to head on out to Las Vegas for the Super Contest weekend over at the Westgate. So it's officially football season now. I mean, the games don't matter for another 2 weeks, but everybody who's trying to make some money on this sport, be a professional at college, they better have their homework done by now because it's getting ready for it's time for class, as they like to say.
Yeah, the games are they don't matter, but they do betting wise. They still have they still win the same amount as a Super Bowl or a regular season game. And like I always remember you saying, don't treat the Super Bowl any differently than any other game, just because it's the last one. And just like the preseason, don't treat these games any differently than you would other betting games. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Is that some advice?
Absolutely. Every game that has a side and total is different. They're all. I like to compare every single sporting event like a puzzle. You got Team A, you got Team B, and you have all the notes and all the information on paper, but then you got to see what's going to happen as soon as these two teams meet for 60 minutes, and everything. No two games are alike. So yeah, you can't treat any game more or less importantly than the other when it comes to betting the spread.
This week in the preseason, Jordy Nelson went down with a torn ACL. He's a good player and he's used a lot with Aaron Rodgers, but I feel like he's kind of like a Wes Welker, or one of those guys where I kind of feel like, not that he's completely replaceable, but I don't feel like he's I don't feel like the team crumbles without him. Do you agree with that?
No, they don't completely crumble without him, but they're going to have some growing pains early and often without Jordy Nelson. I mean, Jordy Nelson was, for all intents and purposes, Aaron Rodgers' number one target. I put him in the list of he's in my list of top 5 receivers, and it's not for the same reason of he doesn't have the talent of a Dez Bryant or a Calvin Johnson or even a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. But he has, like you said, like a Wes Welker, he has very steady hands. He runs perfect routes. He could take a hit. That the irony of him tearing his ACL was he basically rolled over his ankle and popped his knee. He wasn't even touched by his defender in that game against Pittsburgh. So, but he's usually, and that's when I knew something serious was happening, because if anybody would catch a pass and hit the ground, he'd be one of the first guys to pop right back up and run for yards. Or at least try and extend the play, even if it was down and called dead. So for him to just lay there and take the whistle, that showed you something wrong. And sure enough, it was the worst that everyone could imagine, a torn ACL. Thankfully, I found out he didn't tear any other ligaments. It wasn't an MCL or anything else involved. So just the ACL. So he should be ready to go by next training camp. But obviously, it changes his career path. You're not going to see him. I can't imagine you'll see him play a preseason game ever again in his career. And now you have this whole talk about people saying, well, they play too many games in the preseason, or they don't even need to play. You heard Aaron Rodgers. He says, this is a meaningless game. He says we don't even need to play preseason. He says we can just work out in training camp and then go right into the games. I don't believe that. I think some guys definitely need to shake the rust off. Rookies need to be evaluated by coaches in real gameplay, not just mini camps and OTAs and full training camps. So there is a need for preseason games. But maybe we could start looking at cutting it down from maybe 4 to 3. Personally, I don't want that because, I've been winning some significant money the last 3 years in the NFL preseason. A lot of guys have. So I like having the 4 games. I like the system. The system helps us break down how to bet these games. So it would be terrible for us sports bettors, but for the players, I understand cutting it down to maybe 3 games, maybe even 2 games possibly.
Well, the thing that I find funny is, these guys act like, all these fans are like, hey, we don't even need the preseason. And it's like, I honestly believe if, okay, yeah, you cut it down to 2, this is week 2, the injury would have happened either way.
Right.
If the argument is, okay, cut it down to 3 because the 3rd game is the one that matters in preseason, I get that. But I mean, even if, injuries are going to happen either way in football, what's the difference in it happening now versus week 1 or 2 of the regular season? It's still a significant amount of time losing a player. And I just don't, people complain about injuries in the preseason. If they happen in the preseason, if you cut out the preseason, you're having injuries in the first 1 or 2 weeks of the season anyway. Then what do you want to do? Cut it down to 11 games in the regular season? I mean, injuries are going to happen one way or another. It doesn't matter the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you look at 2 significant injuries that happened before preseason or even before training camp. Matt Elam, defensive back for the Baltimore Ravens, he's a key starter. He's out for the year with a bicep injury. That happened in training camp. The first-round draft pick for the Bears, Kevin White out of West Virginia, he's had this issue with some shin splints that led to him having this surgery where they said he could be either back as early as week 8 or miss the entire year. They're saying this happened from him working out in pre-draft camps. So, like you said, injuries are a part of the game. They're going to happen at some point, and it doesn't really matter if you lose. If you lost Jordy Nelson week 1 to an ACL tear, guess what? That's still just as bad as losing him now. If anything, it's actually worse because if you look at the time frame of 10 to 12 months, that means he wouldn't be ready for the next season either. So yeah, preseason is not going to. Cutting preseason won't stop injuries. If anything, it's just going to create more severe injuries in the regular season. And now a team's, handcuffed because they can't make the kind of moves they want to make during the regular season. At least now, the Packers had a chance to pick up, Roddy White. He ended up going to New England. We hear talks now about Randy Moss saying he's in shape enough to play. They have a couple of weeks to grab somebody, move guys up, they'll make, Randall Cobb the number 1 guy, Devontae Adams, Ty Montgomery is going to pick up the slack behind him. They have the chance to pick up a 4th receiver and work him out through the system before the real game starts. Football is the biggest game of preparation. So why not have full team preparation before in the form of preseason? It's crazy how these fans just become so delusional because something bad happens to their team. It's ridiculous.
Well, looking at the 49ers, I don't think we're going to be talking about them much in the regular season. I could be wrong, but they beat the Cowboys pretty handily. But they don't look good, but they don't look nearly as bad as I thought. With all the retirements, I know it's preseason and it's week 2 of the preseason, but I don't like the coach. I don't like their personnel, but it didn't look nearly as bad as I thought it would. Do you agree with that?
No. Well, here's the thing. All right. Obviously, last week was the opening week, which everything's going to be very vanilla game plans. You're not going to see anything serious. I don't take anything seriously from this past Sunday's game, frankly, because Jerry Jones came out a few days before and said, look, the grass that we're playing on is garbage. We're not going to put our starters out here and risk them getting hurt playing on this field. I guess Taylor Swift made an appearance at Levi Stadium, and she had a huge stage setup that takes up about 80 yards of the football field. And so for the 3rd time in the stadium's history, which has only been a couple of years, the grass is now completely – I mean, if you saw any photos or watched the game, you could see little spots. It looked like somebody, like a neighbor who hadn't been home for 2 months and hadn't taken care of their grass. It was pretty bad, And so Jerry Jones said, hey, I'm not risking my guys. Like, we're going to play this just like we did. It was Dustin Vaughn third string quarterback who's completely inept and will probably be working at Sam's Club or Best Buy in a few weeks. He basically played the whole game, and so yeah, you can't really look at what the Niners did. The Niners made some mistakes too. I mean, there was a play where Blaine Gabbert was the quarterback. He tried to dump off a screen pass. Instead of gaining 2 yards, they ended up losing 16 yards on that one pass. So no, that game was a complete mess, and Dallas didn't care, and so that's pretty much what it is.
One positive though, Bowman looked like he is back and looked a little faster than. I know it was not your typical Cowboys. The Cowboys from last year out there, but he looked like he had his speed back.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to evaluate literally position by position where the bright spots were in certain games like that. So yeah, Bowman, and there were a couple of good guys, and even for Dallas, Joseph Randle and Darren McFadden, they looked pretty well in the limited carries that they had. So there were some bright spots, but you have to really pinpoint look at them in a mess of a game like that. And that's why week 3 is a dress rehearsal. You'll really get a feel out of half or 3/4 of all the teams how they're going to look in the regular season based on this week. There's still some teams who won't play at full strength because they have injury issues or whatever. I'll mention a couple of those later on, but you'll get a good grasp and a good idea of what teams are trying to accomplish with their starters in this week, unlike you would in any other week in August.
How comforting is it to know that there's field condition issues at a stadium that's going to host the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just talking about this today. I mean, what's going to happen? My guess is because of the history of field problems, I'm guessing that right at the weekend of the championship weekend, they're just going to go and rip up the turf and lay brand new grass down and let it just sit there for 2 weeks, and then we'll have perfect field conditions for the Super Bowl. But because you can't risk it. Let's just hypothetically say the Niners make the Super Bowl. You can't risk having a team. One thing to have the home team there, but the fact that they're used to playing on this bad grass, and then there's going to be bad grass for whatever AFC team that comes in. I mean, you just can't risk it. So my guess is if we see any more trouble from this grass, the NFL is going to step up and say, hey, you know what? Whether it holds up all year, we're still going to rip this thing up, a couple weeks before February.
Two things. I was right on the over-under for Eagles-Ravens.
Yes, you were. Job well done.
And I was very wrong on the Saints-Patriots, taking the under on the 41.5. Where your best bets from last week, where were you?
Well, I gave out on the show the Colts and Bears first half over. And I don't know if I had pinpointed a number. I posted the number on our Twitter page at the box seats. I figured this would be around 20.5 to 21. It was 21.5. And the game falls right under the total. It goes under by a point. Basically because there were a bunch of points left on the field by both teams. I mean, Jay Cutler finally made a miraculous play. He dove headfirst in the end zone on a nice run, called back for holding. It was a deep pass, called back for pass interference. There were a lot of points left off the field. The Colts missed a field goal. So this game should have gone over easily in the first half, and it just barely missed going over for the full total. But so that's a bad beat. It's a really bad beat when you lose even a half. It's preseason, and yeah, it's a first half play, but that was still anytime two teams leave more than 10 points on the field, and you have an over, that's pretty rough. So that was the one I missed on. My personal play, I actually missed on too. I had the Atlanta Falcons. I got it as early as +2. It bounced back and forth. They played well. They looked great in the first half. Unfortunately, they pulled all their starters, and the Jets really started to play with some enthusiasm and end up winning that game by 8 points. They cover outright. So that was rough, but I bounced back with I had the Titans on Sunday. I played the under in that Niners and Dallas game. So it's been a really profitable preseason for me so far, and I'm hoping to continue that and looking to this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Well, anything that you took away from any takeaways from this week in preseason?
Pretty much injuries. We already covered the Jordy Nelson injury, but in that same game, Marquise Pouncey, the center for the Pittsburgh Steelers, injures his ankle. They're pretty much saying he's done for the year. An injury revolving that game, but it wasn't a player who was there. It was the backup for Ben Roethlisberger, which is Bruce Gradkowski. He's now on the injured reserve he had thumb surgery today. So Michael Vick is now a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who he'll be backing up Roethlisberger. So it'll be interesting now to see how acclimated he becomes. What kind of playing time will he see this week? Obviously, it won't be a whole lot because of the fact that this is the dress rehearsal week. And even though this would be the fourth game for Pittsburgh, mind you, they had the Hall of Fame game, but they will, for all intents and purposes, what I'm hearing so far, they will be running their starters the most of the way through here. So the takeaway from that game alone is what we'll see. Wow, okay, week 4 is going to be interesting because now we're going to have Michael Vick, who hasn't really, only had the offense to learn for about a week and a half. I'm pretty sure he's going to be getting the bulk of the action on that September 3rd game to wrap up preseason. Looking at some other spots, keeping with the injury trend, the Giants, New York Giants, their defense is just in shambles right now. They have guys going down left and right. Will Beatty is out with the torn pectoral. Jason Pierre-Paul still hasn't seen any time left. There's a couple other guys who we're talking major injuries. So they were lucky to scoot out of Jacksonville with a win. But looking ahead, I can't see where they're going to be trying to give much effort this week or in the final week because they're just trying to stay healthy and heal up and get ready for week 1. So injuries have been the trend of this preseason, and that's pretty much the biggest thing to take away from it is, how is this going to look going into this week? Not necessarily the 4th week, but then going back into week 1 for the regular season.
Yep. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first break here on the Box Seats with Alex P. Smith and Bob Sullivan here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. When we come back, we'll talk some Week 3 preseason lines, and we'll be right back here on LateNightSportsRadio.com.
Baby, never know when love is lost until you find just what it costs to be wrong. I wonder if you think of me passing by, you think you see me coming. I wonder if you pull me in, kiss me just one time again. Cause in the final hours of night, do you remember? Coming and the nights will keep on going till they're tired, falling fast asleep and as they dream of ghosts of beats filled with desire. The chance of life is all around, a chance to take is always found. Writing on the lullabies, I'm alone living life. Do you remember? Lost or found, love lying by your side. In the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found, love lying by your side. Take another second. Until you find just what it costs to be wrong. I wonder if you think of me passing by, you think you see me coming. I wonder if you pull me in, kiss me just one time again. The final hours of night, do you remember?
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
And we are back to the box seats on Late Night Sports Radio. I'm Alex B. Smith here alongside with Bob Sullivan. During the commercial break, I was actually texting my fall guy to make sure that he was ready for the trip to Vegas in the next couple of days. So get some busy work in for the Super Contest weekend. But Bob, let's start breaking down some of these games for this dress rehearsal week 3. Got some pretty good stuff on tap. We got a bit of a rivalry matchup, if you will. Starting off, well, to be on one of the games on Saturday night between the New York Jets and the New York Giants.
Yeah, it's funny with these rivalry games how the one that got discontinued was the 49ers and Raiders due to people trying to kill each other in the stands. And that's not a joke. That was literally what was happening.
Right.
Yeah, Jets, Giants. Giants, those are my boys. Things are starting to fall apart defensively for them. Looking at this, a couple things here. Over under at 42. I'm feeling that's going to be a little. I feel like Eli, is going to try to shoot out here, and I feel like these two teams every year they build this game up. It's not Rex Ryan building it up this time, but there usually is some points scored here, and I think I'm leaning towards taking the over in this game. And I just see these two, even with Geno Smith out, the Jets they have been putting up a few points here in the preseason, so I see this going over.
I agree with that. I agree with that. At first glance, when this line opened, and it opened around 42.5, 43 at some spots when it opened, and I was thinking, okay, yeah, this is a big rivalry game, and it's a dress rehearsal. But a couple of things kind of steered me maybe in the opposite direction or just kind of off of it altogether was, one, this is, like you said, you got a lot of injuries on the Giants' defensive end. You got a lot of inconsistency on the Jets' offensive end. So it's a battle of, which side's going to really, win out in that. But also, if you look later in the season, these two teams are going to play each other again later in the year, in the regular season. You got Tom Coughlin, who's a veteran coach, going against Todd Bowles, who's, it's his first year with the Jets. I don't really see too many, even though this is game 3, week 3, the normal dress rehearsal time, I don't think they're going to really let each other see a lot of each other's playbooks, especially more on Coughlin's side. He's not going to really give up a whole lot of secrets on what he's trying to do. So I think we could end up seeing this being more of a kind of plain Jane game like we have in the first couple weeks. So, I did end up making a play on this game. You can get that right now at sportsmemo.com or any of my other various websites. But, it should be interesting, because you got Eli Manning, and you got all these young quarterbacks for the Jets who want to prove themselves. So this game could really go out one way or the other as far as we could see a shootout or we could see a snooze fest. So it'll be a fun game to see. I think it'll be pretty interesting to see what exactly comes up out of it.
Mm-hmm. This game, I agree. I mean, with that, I'm leaning toward, I think it should go over, but, I'm not wildly confident in that, but, the way the Jets have been playing, I'm going to probably go the over on that. One game that you were mentioning in the break was Minnesota and Dallas. What have you seen, and what do you like in this?
Well, Minnesota's just really been a hot team playing in the preseason. Since Mike Zimmer has taken over as head coach, they've gone 7-0 straight up and then 6-1 against the spread. So that's something you definitely want to really look at going to the betting windows with, because there's always some sort of momentum or just a good spot for the Vikings lately. This would be their 4th game because they had the Hall of Fame game, and they're going to play against the Dallas team who weren't really trying to play that hard, like I mentioned last week, because of the whole turf injury. Their camp broke, so they're finally out of California. They're now going to be back in Dallas, training in their regular camp facility during the season, and they'll be playing the home game. But there's an angle that I really like in this. Teams who are underdogs coming off back-to-back home wins, and this is going back nearly 30 years, they've covered 19-5-1. So getting some points with Minnesota there, and it's not as high up as it once was. It's open at 3. Now Minnesota's only getting 1.2, 1.5 if you shop around. I still think Minnesota's going to, really play a tough game again, and I could see them coming out with a win.
Yeah. So you in this, would you go small in this one?
Yeah, I would make it a small play. I mean, something to keep in mind too. We always talk about 3s and 7s in football. That's usually during the regular season. 1 and 2 are more crucial numbers during the preseason because you don't want to. Teams aren't going to try and go for the tie and go into overtime. Okay, everybody wants to play 60 minutes to get the hell out of there. So, and you saw that last week where there was 3 games that ended by 1 point, and they were related to 2-point conversions. So, 1 is a key number. If you can get a 1.5, then by all means go and grab that. And if 1.5 or higher with Minnesota, if you like Dallas, I'd wait a little bit and maybe you find the pick'em. Maybe you'll find where some Minnesota money comes in, and you can get the +1 with Dallas. So if you like Minnesota, jump on it right now. Play it small and buy up the point, so it may would cost you a full regular unit perhaps. But yeah, that's the way I would approach that game.
Okay. I was looking at Arizona and Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
Some places are getting Arizona with a point. I was looking at going Oakland. They got a lot of Arizona. I just feel like they the way they've been playing, the way Arians coaches, I feel like with Carson Palmer coming back, Oakland has so many more question marks than Arizona does right now. And I feel like in a dress rehearsal game, Arizona's the better team. I feel like they wind up taking this game, and I'll take Arizona to win outright.
Yeah, no, I side with you on that too. Bruce Arians wasn't really happy with his team's effort last game. So anytime you get a soundbite or a couple of quotes of a pissed off coach during the preseason, probably a team you want to follow up on that next weekend. So looking at, you said, there's a lot of question marks for Oakland. Arizona's pretty established. I don't think Carson Palmer is going to see more than a half of play because he's coming off that injury. But we've already heard that the defense is going to be playing a bulk of the game, the first team defense. Some of the running backs and receivers will be seeing, some increased time. So I like Arizona in the spot too. I would grab it now because I could definitely see where this line's going to flip flop, and Arizona would probably close as a 1, maybe even a 2-point favorite, especially if this being a nighttime, a TV game. There's going to be a lot of money on this. I wouldn't be shocked to see this game go over to, I think 40 is a tad bit low. And if we see a defensive score in this game, 40 is a very easily accomplishable number.
Philly, Green Bay, some spots of the pick'em, and also 49.5 over under, which with the way Philly's been putting up points in this preseason, 49.5 seems like a high number with looking at all the other numbers, but I don't think it is out of the realm at all for that to go over. Do you agree?
I agree 100%. I mean, we'll talk about the total first, then I'll get to the line, to that spread. But as far as the total, yeah, 49.5 makes sense. You're seeing higher totals across the board this week because it's the dress rehearsal. These are the total numbers that look more like week 1, regular season totals, because this is the closest we're going to see to a regular season game until September 13th. So 49.5, I think, honestly, if these two teams were playing in the regular season, I think this total would probably be closer toward like 53, 54 points. And that's even with Jordy Nelson out for the Packers. So, but now let's go to the spread, which opened Green Bay -3. And granted, this opened knowing that there was going to be some serious injury to Jordy Nelson. We didn't know for sure if it was set in stone, it was a torn ACL, but we knew he was going to miss some extended time. Certainly wouldn't be playing in this game on Saturday night. I don't know why on earth this number opened at 3. I jumped on it at 2.5 for the Eagles. I took the points. Thankfully, sent it out to my full season clients right away. And before I could even start doing the write-up, this game goes all the way to Philadelphia pick'em, then -1, a little bit of buyback on Green Bay. So now it's pick'em for most spots. You can shop around and find a +1 for either side, depending on where you go. It just didn't make sense. You heard John Harbaugh say last week, but we didn't game plan for the Eagles defense. We're not going to see them in the regular season. We don't even need to worry about, it's such a different dynamic. We're not going to, rack our brains over it. We're going to just, get our work in, get out of there. Indianapolis, same deal. Get our work in, get out of there. So Green Bay having injury issues on both sides of the ball. Scott Tolzien left Sunday's game also with a concussion. TJ Lang, a guard, left the game with a concussion on Sunday. Clay Matthews has had some nagging injuries that he's been dealing with back and forth. Can't imagine he'll play more than a half. There's a couple of defensive backs that are hurt for Green Bay that have been day-to-day throughout camp. There's no reason for Mike McCarthy to game plan for Philadelphia's defense. The only time he'd possibly see, or offense rather, the only time he'd see them would be in the postseason, which obviously you have enough film to work a game plan on, obviously. So this game could go over. I don't know how enthusiastic Green Bay's offense is going to be now with these injuries. So I would stay away from the over, but I definitely, even though you're not getting the best number, Philadelphia Eagles at Pick'em is still a pretty good place. I see them winning this ball game.
Is there any other games out there? Well, first, are there any games? Is there a major game that you would say do not touch this?
I would have to say San Francisco, Denver. I don't like a line at 5 this time of year. Unless we hear some kind of something absurd, and that's the thing now. I mean, in the day of the internet, there's no crazy information that would get by anybody, let alone the lines maker. So there's nothing I wouldn't back Denver laying 5 points. I'm not going to take the Niners plus 5 points because I haven't seen anything that was actually, anything that was, not through rose-colored glasses as far as game planning, because as we mentioned last week, Dallas didn't care. Last week before that was the first week. So I would avoid that game at all costs. Let's see if there's anything else that I would try and shy away from. Maybe Chicago, Cincinnati. Not sure how to really read. Cincinnati, that was kind of a bad loss. They had a lot of mistakes going on. Chicago looked good the last couple of games. We're going to see their full first team offense and defense, which means we could see a lot of points. Might be a game you want to look at on the over 42.5 is that total. But I wouldn't touch either that game or the San Fran Denver game.
Yeah, that game, looking at that, yeah, 5 is a huge margin, especially in the preseason. Just looking at, numbers from weeks past, and even with this being week 3, it's just a tough one to buy into. Was there any other games that you wanted to talk about that caught your eye?
No, I have a play on Detroit Jacksonville that's up for sale at Sports Memo. There's a side I really like in that game, but other than that, no. It's it'll be interesting to watch. This will be a great observation for those of you who have Comcast cable or Red Zone. NFL Red Zone is free on Saturday, so you get to see the whip around coverage of all those games, as well as September 3rd, the finale of the preseason. So good time to sit around and watch that and get to observe, teams in the red zone and see what they're doing from a scoring perspective. But there's only a few isolated betting spots, and a lot of the numbers have moved. So, it's like I said, it feels like a real regular season week, not just the game planning, but also the betting market moves, as hinted with the Green Bay game, for example. So.
Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and take one more break, and when we come back, we will talk best bets here on the box seats with Owski Smith and Bob Sullivan here on LateNightSportsRadio.com.
Baby, you're a mystery. Tell me what's a girl gotta do? but I can't seem to figure it through. I wanna make it better, but now I'm scared of looking a fool. Oh, baby, no, I've never been very good at playing it cool. Just when I think I understand it all, I find I know nothing at all. I never known nobody like you. Yeah, you keep me guessing, I'm confessing now, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you. Baby, you're an enigma. Ooh, baby, you're an enigma. Yeah, you keep me guessing, I'm confessing now, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you. Baby, you're an enigma. Baby, you're an enigma. Baby, you're an enigma. Yeah, you keep me guessing, I'm confessing now, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
I was lost at sea. I was under the waves before love rescued me.
And we are back.
Yeah, that's my bad.
Oh, was that English, Bob?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Go ahead, Alex. You on this.
All right. Well, we're back on the box seats. It's late, folks, so bear with us. But Alex B. Smith here with Bob Sullivan, wrapping it up on Late Night Sports Radio. We're here with our best bets for Week 3. Bob, you want to take it away?
Yeah, there's some games out there that intrigue me. The Indy St. Louis over under 42.5 intrigues me, just because of how little Indy looks, how disinterested they've looked this preseason. Another one that intrigues me a little bit is the 43.5 between Washington and Baltimore over under game total. And I think I'm going to take that as my best bet and say the over in Baltimore, Washington. I don't know why I'm going that route, but I feel like that's that sounds really stupid. My best bet is I don't know. But I get the good feeling that those two, it's another kind of forced rivalry game. Robert Griffin is probably not, I doubt he'll play. So I figure, Kirk Cousins, if he gets the majority of playing time, then he'll probably, put up some good numbers because it's a meaningless game.
No, yeah, I agree. I was going to say there's a couple of solid pinpoints on this game that would suggest playing that over. And I was going to say RG3, he's not playing this. I highly doubt he's going to play it. And if he does, he'll take a few snaps, going to be mostly handoffs. He's not dropping back for anything because that old line is not protecting him. The offensive line has been really bad for Washington. But Kirk Cousins, Colt McCoy, they both looked really good coming in, in RG3's absence, and they ended up winning that game against, Denver Detroit last week. You look at Baltimore, they have a depleted defense. They're missing starters on defense, so they're plugging in second string guys to get ready for the season, which means in the second half we're going to be seeing third and fourth string guys. Keep in mind this is the last week of 90-man rosters. The rosters will get cut down on September 1st to 75. They'll play one more game and then they get cut down to 53. So we're going to see a lot of backup defenders for the Ravens. So I'm kind of leaning with that over with you on there too. We already mentioned my best bet, which is the Philadelphia Eagles at Pick'em. Green Bay has no reason to try and play really hard in this. They're already set and established. They don't want to get any more major injuries. They're not going to try and game plan against Chip Kelly's crazy up-tempo offense. So, we all for the most part, missed the best of the number. But I still think Philly at Pick'em. I'm sure money will change back and forth. Don't grab a -1. Try and shop around and get a Pick'em or a +1 and fly with the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm with you on that because, Chip Kelly, he's had two good regular seasons. He's had two good seasons. Well, decent enough. But the preseason, he's kind of the Steve Spurrier of the preseason. But he's got, some regular season success to back it up. But, getting, scoring a lot of points. He's actually, these players, he has a lot of players that he interchanges in and out. They're always fresh. They're well conditioned, and I don't see why not take them. And I also think it wouldn't be horrible. The over under 49.5. I mean, they put up 36 and 40 points. I'm guessing they're going to be in that ballpark again. So I'm guessing I'm probably going to take the over in that as well.
Yeah, like I said, it looks like a steep price, but the way that Philly has been playing, and like I said, if you've got a team, if we hear the Packers come out and say, yeah, we're not going to defensively game plan, then yeah, why would we see anything different than the last 2 weeks where the Eagles would be in the 40-point range? They've outscored opponents 76-27 in the last 2 ball games. So that riding the hot hand would be taking the Eagles in the over.
I do have there's some varying lines in the New England, Carolina, from Pick'em to, Carolina to 1, New England by 1. Would you touch this one at all? Would you leave it alone?
I'd probably leave that one alone. If I were to play anything in that contest, I'd probably lean toward the under. Carolina had a huge blow. That's one injury we didn't talk about, with Kelvin Benjamin. So offensively, they're really handcuffed. New England, they don't have to run anything crazy. Garoppolo got his reps in last week. We still, it's kind of, the whole Tom Brady thing. Tom Brady will get his reps in. New England doesn't need to do anything fancy or crazy, despite it being a dress rehearsal week. I could see this game being a really slow, boring, dull game. If I had to play a side, gun to my head, I'd probably take New England, just because, like I said, Carolina is just really handcuffed with a couple injuries. The Kelvin Benjamin injury is a huge loss for the Panthers. So I'd either look at, I'm staying away from it, but if I had to play something, it would either be the under or the Patriots.
Would that Benjamin injury lean you towards looking at the under as far as win totals go for them? I think it was like 7.5. 7.5 I was seeing at the beginning of the year. Would that lean you towards taking the under, or do you think he has that great of an effect? Like, he has a great effect on their offense, but I don't know if it necessarily is going to translate to, a huge, win change for them.
For if anything, as far as futures goes in that division, it kind of solidifies the play I gave out a while back and talked about with the Atlanta Falcons over. I think the Atlanta Falcons are the best team in this division. I think they win the NFC North, and I actually think they could make a legitimate run if they stay healthy to possibly the NFC title game. So I don't know if Carolina will, they'll hover around that 6 to 8 win range. The thing is, how good or bad will New Orleans be? I think New Orleans is going to be kind of in that same range. So it will come down to 1 or 2 division games to see how Carolina fares out. But I do see Carolina not contending for the postseason and fighting for a second or third place in that division, which is one of the weaker divisions in the NFL.
A couple more things before we get out of here. Just questions I have. Is there anybody? I know you like the Falcons a lot, but with what you've seen in the preseason, numbers you put together before the preseason, and numbers that you're going to be putting together going into the regular season, is there any team that you're falling in love with heading into the regular season that you think is going to be a team that you're going to, bet a lot this year?
Honestly, the Minnesota Vikings. They really impressed me. I had them, before camp as a kind of middle of the road team. We'll see how Bridgewater fares in the second year. We'll see how AP does when he comes back running, for a full season. The addition of Mike Wallace, will that help with Cordarrelle Patterson and some of the other guys on the offense? Their defense, solid draft pick and Trey Waynes. So I thought, they were one of those teams where I said, okay, they could go as bad as 5-11. They could go as well as 10-6 and maybe get a wild card spot. And I'm leaning toward them more having a 8 to 10 win season. And I think they could really slip in and make some noise and possibly at least be in the wild card race heading into the final week of the regular season, if not clinching a spot and making the playoffs. And I could see them getting some value early still. I mean, take, for example, their week 1 line. They were 3-point underdogs in that Monday night opener against San Francisco when the lines came out way back in June. Now they are either 1-point favorite or pick 'em in most shops. So, and that's part of a lot of people like myself liking what they're seeing out of Minnesota, and a lot of people who are just absolutely saying, this 49er team is not going to do much of anything. So I was lucky enough to actually grab Minnesota +3 in the summer. That was before we even had our show. And now I would like to hopefully think that if we can see Minnesota win these next 2 games, San Fran maybe lose out, I would love to be able to try and create a middle if I can get San Fran at +2.5 or +3 and have both sides and hope this thing, comes down to a 1-point, 2-point game. So I don't know if I'm going to do that for sure, but it's something to look at. But Minnesota is definitely a team that I'll be looking at. I think they're going to cover some spread. And Atlanta, too. I think those both are 2 teams to look for that are going to play well, better than expected, and they're going to cover some point spreads early. They're going to get some value.
One more question I do have is there a team that you cannot get a read on this preseason?
There are a couple of teams I can't get a read on. I would honestly, one of them being the Chicago Bears. Obviously I'm a Bears fan and I follow everything that they're doing to a T as far as camp goes. But, what we're seeing so far now, like you said, week 1 they win against Miami and, where the second team just outclassed the second team. Last week, like I said, Indianapolis kind of seems pretty disinterested. There were some turnovers in that game that led to Chicago winning. But there's nothing overly impressive. A few bright spots from Cutler, but then a few dark spots from that O-line with a lot of penalties taking away plays. Defense showed some better signs of life in the second game, but they were completely outmatched by Miami's first team in week 1. So they're really Jekyll and Hyde already, which is not a great sign of things to come. So hopefully we can see some solid play this week and, go from there. And hopefully, I mean, they're going to be amped up because they're at home against Green Bay to start the season. So it's going to be intense right out of the gate. So hopefully we see that in week 1 and not a lot of what we've seen these past 2 weeks in preseason.
Yeah. Well, Alex, Box Seats fans, we will be off next week. And then the following week, Alex and Keith, we will be the hosts. And Alex, do you want to tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter?
Yeah,
all that good stuff before we get out of here.
Yeah, on Twitter at AX Smith Sports, sportsmemo.com, kellyinvegas.com, and my own personal site, axsmithsports.com. Click on there to find out some information about me being out in Las Vegas and a huge sales special I have going on from now until the end of the weekend.
All right. And you can find me on Twitter at Bob Sullivan Show, and we'll see you again next week, or in 2 weeks.